Welcome to the Lightworker Podcast. I am your host, Natalie Ubl Grant. I am a lightworker, a meditation facilitator, Reiki master, and a health and wellness enthusiast who thrives on helping people. Connection is my superpower, and I just love bringing people to a space where transformation can occur. Are you looking for information on being a lightworker? Are you a lightworker and just love collecting knowledge from other lightworkers?
Hey. So, this is you and me on the couch today, and I thought I'd just have a little chat. So I want to thank you for being here on the Lightworker Podcast, because it is a podcast where hopefully we're bringing in a connection of other lightworkers, men and women, that are on a spiritual path, that are seeking answers to making their life better, to growing a connection to themselves because they're noticing that the world around them is falling apart. And so while I'm sitting here on the couch today, just me and you, I want to open a conversation. And I want to ask you how you're going. How are you today? Because there's a lot going on. You know, we've got solar flares, we've got wars, we've got taxes, we've got government, we've got other human beings. We are all just trying to get along and create a happy life. A life that our basic creature comforts and needs are fulfilled, and where we can enjoy, hopefully, some of the experience of what it is to be a human. Now, some of us are here asking questions. I have questions. Do you have questions? Because, you know, we got landed here in these bodies. No one gave us an instruction manual. And here we are trying to figure out what the freak we're supposed to be doing while we're here. You know, some of us have had childhoods that are questionable. Others have had great childhoods and their adult life is questionable. And when I mean questionable, I mean some of the challenges that human beings are facing on this planet right now are really difficult. And I don't know if any of you are like me, but I've done a little bit of research into some of the history that we've been told is our history. And, you know, some of it I feel is because I could corroborate with my grandmother. And some of it I'm unsure about. You know, I did work in a job where I worked in a Jewish community, and so I did speak with Holocaust survivors. And so for me, that history is true. And, you know, I've worked with some of the Indigenous community, and that history is true. Not the one that we were taught at school, though. There is a different history, and you probably should go and have a look. But it's available to us now to see, you know, that we've come from somewhere and we're heading somewhere. But here we are now. We've all landed in these bodies. And we've all got our own challenges. Life is a challenge for a lot of us. Everyone's challenges are different. Your challenges will be different to my challenges. And one thing that I do know is that when I sort of discovered Reiki, for me, that opened up this whole other world for me, another way to look at the reality, a differing perspective. You know, and for some people, they get that differing perspective in a change of job or trying out a new sport or joining a gym. And we move into different communities, different realities, and we see that there are different ways of being a human, because we all grew up in our family environment or without a family. Everyone's different. And we've all had experiences that led us to this now moment. Now, they're all different experiences, but they're not all necessarily just the only one or the right one or the way to live in the reality. So the reason that I sort of thought I'd start this conversation is because I want to ask you, what do you think the right way to live in this reality is? Do you follow a spiritual path? Are you religious? Which religion is it that you follow? I've done a little bit of research into some differing religions. I didn't come from a religious background, but what I've found just through reading some scriptures and getting interested in different people's opinions and the way that their faith comes about, there's some common threads, right? There's common threads. Different religions have different rules, but the basic common thread that runs through it, a lot of them, is that we just want to be here to have the experience that we're having. And there is some sort of energy that is part of us that is also around us. And somehow it's thinking and feeling and breathing with us. And none of us really understand what that is. And then they've invented this thing called quantum physics, quantum science. And some of this quantum research that's being done now is actually helping some of us spiritual people understand a little bit more about what it is to be a human. You know, we're starting to learn things like our emotions affect our reality, how we're feeling governs what happens next. And there's this crossover that's happening, right? So for you today, if you were to just assess where you're at as a male in a male body, or a female in a female body, or as a male in a female body, or as a female in a male body, wherever you're at, whatever you feel is true and right for you, how do you feel in this moment while you're breathing, while you're even hearing me speak? Is anything that I've said triggering you in any way? Do you feel that there's something rising in you? And what would you like to do about it when it does rise in you? You could be getting bored at this point because I've been rambling on for 7 minutes. Or you might be interested into seeing where the conversation could go. What I'm interested in is, do you know that you are important? Do you know that the body that you were put in is important? And when I say that, what are the thoughts that come into your mind around that? Because when I say words and you hear those words, a response happens within us as humans. And what is that response? Are you even aware of it? Do you spend time contemplating that there is even a response? When somebody walks in at work, let's say you have a job and there's somebody else walks in at work, and they might be visibly upset or angry. They might be giving off a vibe. Are you aware of yourself that witnesses that? Do you have a response to that? Now, some of you will be saying, yeah, absolutely, I can feel that. And other people will be like, no, I don't care what other people do. And isn't that interesting? Because each one of us is so different and has a different approach, a different way of seeing the reality that we're in. Some people see other people's pain and other people don't. Some people are in pain but can't even see that they're in pain. Everyone else can see that they're in pain, but they can't see it. It's interesting. Now, one of the other things that I thought I'd, kind of get to with this discussion, which is just a pondering at this point. So this is me and how I stare at a wall and I think about the world and I think about the reality we're in, and I just ponder, how am I in that reality? How am I responding when somebody comes in at work? How am I responding when something happens in my home? Do I respond in the same manner at home as when I'm at work? Do I respond differently to people that I love to the ones that I work with? Do you notice this about yourself? Have you even ever thought about it? Because it's a really interesting thing to start paying attention to how you are in your reality and how are you going with that. For me, I spent a big chunk of my life wanting everybody else to change so that I could feel better, wanting people to speak kinder to me, wanting people to act differently, wanting people to stop cutting me off in the car when I was driving. And, I wanted that to change and nothing changed. I would get angry. I would have anger rise in my body. I would be sad. I would be frustrated. And I would be the one that was getting upset. And yet nothing changed in my reality. When I went to the trouble of actually witnessing this within myself, I realized something very important, that I was causing my own suffering. I was listening to the voices in my head that were telling me all the negative things that were going on in my life. And there was nothing that was nice. There was nothing that was kind, and there was nothing that was telling me that my life was actually good. And that was an interesting observation. So I'm going to ask you, if you were to sit here in this moment and you were to just think about today, what have you noticed today about you in your reality? Are you hearing negative thoughts in your head or positive ones? And this is not you've got to start thinking positive discussion, right? Because you don't. And this isn't about blaming yourself and getting upset about yourself. This is just about acknowledging where you're at. That's why I'm sitting on the couch. I'm acknowledging where I'm at today, all right? And I'm reflecting on how I've been in my life. And I'm giving you the opportunity, if you're still listening, to reflect on your life and what's going on in yours. Because we can't change anything if we're not aware first about what's actually happening in our life for us. If we don't stop, pause, take a breath, and actually assess the situation from a neutral perspective, right? So not where I'm slinging blame, saying it's someone else's fault, because I've done that, and waiting for other people to change so that I can feel better was a waste of my life, a waste of time. The one thing that did help was to stop, pause, and pay attention to what's actually happening for me now. So that's why I'm asking you, what is happening for you today? Is today a good day? How would you judge that good day? Are you having thoughts that are pleasant and kind, or are you having thoughts about how much you dislike your job, or your partner's nagging you, or you haven't got something that you want? Like, let's assess it. Where are you? So, because for me right now, it's a very different thing when I sit here and I ponder this. And I ponder this and I do it regularly because I like to give myself a check-in. So this is your opportunity for a check-in today. Let's see. Put a comment. How are you feeling just right now? And without judging it, without sitting there going, oh, I should be feeling happier. But really what I'm feeling is I'm really quite sick of my life. I'm listening to the voices that are happening in my head right now. And you know what? They're telling me something's not quite right. And that might be true. You know, while I kept on yelling at the cars all around me while I'm driving to work, and I kept on only paying attention to things like, I don't want to pay my bill because I'm being robbed, or no one's hearing me. I'm listening all of the time to everybody else, but nobody ever hears anything that I'm saying. And they were some of the gripes that I had, right? And then even when I wanted to say something, there was no point saying it because no one would actually be listening to me anyway because they're too busy with the story in their own head to hear what I've got to say. And I would listen to that thought and believe that it was true, and it's not true. And I would give up. I wouldn't try. And when I didn't try, things got really sad, and you just head into this spiral of helplessness, hopelessness. And when that happens, at the time, you just cannot even fathom how there would be a way out, how there's going to be some way that you can get out of the situation that you're in. And so you flounder around and you've got no idea. So if you're feeling that way right now, there are steps that you can take that are going to slowly and gradually pull yourself out of that state. And it isn't just an overnight fix. This is work. This is going to take a couple of steps. But it first starts with assessing the situation for what it actually is. And if that means getting a pen and paper out and actually writing down, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling sad because, and then you just start writing. And then when thoughts come in to say, well, you shouldn't feel sad because you live in Australia. Australia is a great place. You're living in a free country. Instead of listening to that, just let yourself feel sad. Let that sadness move through your body. Let someone that you know that's close to you, let them know that you're feeling sad. I mean, that can be really hard to share the truth with someone. I'm feeling sad or I'm unhappy. You don't know the solution at that point. You just know that you're feeling something. And if you've noticed that you actually are feeling something and then you're beating yourself up for feeling that because you really should be, very grateful for what you have and where you're at, instead of going into that, just pause and breathe and be here. Be here with whatever's alive in you. Could be that your wife's nagging you, right? She's just been at you the whole time. Nag, 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 nag. That's all you hear. She's telling you what to do all of the time. And it's creating frustration. Maybe you're angry about it, right? Maybe you just need to take 5 minutes to feel the anger. And maybe you need to let her know, I'm going to need 5 minutes to feel this anger because while you keep telling me, I am still not connecting to myself. I'm not feeling whatever I need to feel. Maybe you don't even know that you need to feel. I've learned through working with people and listening to people for over 25 years. People really are very simple. We're not that complicated. But the problem is we live a lot of the time in our heads, not in the true reality that we're living in. And the first step is to bring yourself back into the true reality. First, being here and knowing what is going on for you first. And sometimes that means just taking a pause and actually pondering what is going on for me in this moment. And it could be, yes, you're observing your wife is nagging you, or it could be that you're observing that your husband isn't listening to you, or it could be that you're observing that your kids are acting out, or it could be that you're lonely. Whatever it is that you are right now, whatever it is the experience that is for you right now, that's the first step. If it's depression and you can't get out of bed, that's looking at the stone hard, cold truth about what is without going into the mental thought process around what should be or what could be or what isn't happening to create peace for you. Actually naming what is the problem is the first step. And so if it's a problem for you to be unable to get out of bed, then name that. I can't get out of bed. If it's you've just had a baby and you're sleep deprived and you are, normally a really high functioning person, but in this moment, this baby is just requiring all of your attention and you've lost yourself, then name it. I've lost myself. I have got no time to myself. I'm always looking after this baby and I'm getting no sleep. Actually just sit with the truth. Or I've been trying to get a message across to my husband to tell him what I'm needing from him and I'm feeling unheard. Actually figure out what it is, not you never listen to me, you're not doing what I'm asking you to do, you. It's getting connected to what's actually true for you in that moment, okay? So if you're a man and you're hearing your wife nagging you, you're always nagging me. You're never listening to me. You're always telling me what to do. Turn the torch back onto self and go, what is true in this moment? Be an observer of the reality that you're actually in, not the thoughts that are happening in your head. Catch that first. Spend a week just catching that. That's the first step. Tell yourself the truth about what's actually happening in the reality that you're in, not the thoughts about what you think is happening. Be here and assess what you're feeling. We have to just start with what is. We have to start witnessing and observing our reality for what is. There's probably a myriad of reasons why you don't want to get out of bed, but at least say, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm tired. I'm run down. I'm whatever it is, right? I'm depressed. Or I've got a wife that's constantly nagging me and she never lets up. She never shuts up. And I'm constantly focusing on what she's doing, but I'm not actually paying any attention to what I'm doing. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe I'm needing to do something here and I haven't paid any attention to that, right? Or maybe you do all the things and you're not, it maybe the actual thing is there's a communication issue between two people, but you don't know until you stop, sit on a couch and actually ponder the life, not scroll on a phone, not drink alcohol until you become numb, not take a drug to numb a pain or whatever, or distraction, forget that it's happening, pretend it's not there because it might go away. No, actually stand in the cold face and actually pay attention to what is. Sit on the couch. Assess your situation and your life and where you're at. You might have been on autopilot for so long that you've forgotten even how to do that. You might be a podcast junkie and you've listened to 50 podcasts already today, and this is like the 51st one. Maybe this is your invitation to just stop. Sometimes we can have information overload. There is just too much information going in and not enough doing nothing and just pausing. So I want to know what your thoughts are. Can you pause? What happens when you pause? Can you really truly assess what's happening for you when your outside world, the chaos is all around you? And it's going to get worse. And so how are you going to meet that chaos? Because getting chaotic in your own self is going to make that worse. So what do you need to do for you? I know for me, I find pausing, breathing, taking some time out, sitting on the couch, looking at this beautiful view. Let me show you. This is the view. I find doing that helps me. It helps me get back in the present moment. It helps me pay attention to what's going on in these thoughts. It helps me to determine, am I blaming other people for the reality I'm in, or am I taking responsibility for my own share? Because I can only be responsible for my 50%. I can be responsible for what I watch on television. And notice it's called the television. I can be responsible for what information I allow come into my experience by reading books, listening to podcasts, and whatever searching that I do for the information that I want to know about. I can assess what's right for me, and I make the decisions that are right for me. So when you've got your spiritual practice, whatever that actually is, the common thread is that we are connected to this energy field or consciousness or God or creator. We're all a part of that. And if we're not pausing to pay attention to our now moment and being truthful about what's happening for us in this experience, we're just getting pushed along. And then we're blaming other people and we're reacting and we're changing nothing. So what if you decided to pause today and change something, just one little thing, by being truthful with yourself about what's really happening in your experience, without blaming yourself, without turning horrible thoughts onto you. Just, you're important and you deserve to walk the path towards creating a life that you actually want and that you deserve, right? And that might look like pausing sometimes and just reassessing what's actually going on, noticing if you're blaming someone else, and figuring out what can you do differently that's going to contribute differently into that exchange. I made a decision to stop yelling at all the other drivers in the cars around me. That was one tiny change. I did that for a week just to see if I could make my life better. It didn't stop people from cutting me off or anything like that, but I definitely made a difference to my happy meter, because wherever I'd get to after I drove there, I'd feel better than yelling at people on the way there. Just tiny changes. Let's see what happens. What is your tiny change when you've sat and you've figured out what is true about your situation now without giving yourself any kind of negativity about it, just being truthful. Maybe you might be unhappy in your marriage. Be truthful and say, I'm unhappy in my marriage. Maybe you might be a new mum and you just thought that it would be something different than what it is. You know, maybe you're loving it. Like, it's so different for everyone. But just know that us humans, we're all having our own experience. The same thing could be happening to 10 different people, and 10 different people will have a completely different experience with that. None of them are right or wrong. They're just, that is the experience. So what would you like to do about the situation that you're in right now? If you took responsibility for where you're at, whether you're going to follow a spiritual path, whether that be a religious path, whether that just be going to the gym, whatever it is that you're going to be doing, are you doing it from the present moment? And are you doing it from that aligned point of view of this is actually what I want? Or are you working from duty? Are you scared? Actually figure out what it is that your experience is in this moment. And that's the starting point. I would love to hear what your comments are. So please leave me some comments. And thank you for joining me on this episode of the Lightworker Podcast. And next week, I'm sure there will be some new adventures that we will go on. Thank you.
If you enjoy this podcast, remember to like and subscribe and share it with someone that you think would benefit from this. Follow us on Spotify and all the podcasting apps that you may listen to your favorite podcasts through. The more we share these podcasts, the further the messages of the stories of awakening are spread. It's happening all over the world now. People are awakening, and it's an exciting time to be alive. The content found within these podcasts are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. Nothing on this website is intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any physical or medical conditions. If you have any physical or medical conditions, you should seek the advice of your medical professional immediately. These podcasts have a meditative effect, so please never drive a vehicle while listening to Guided Meditation Podcast.